Welcome back to a damp, overcast Indiana State Fairgrounds here in Indianapolis as we're ready for round 2 competition. At Army Armstrong earlier in the program, you alluded to the sand at the starting line and how it will get chewed up. And you can see some of the results right there from first round competition. That starting line area is getting well abused as we take a look for the first time at David Morris in the equalizer. Of course, he knocked out Wayne Smozanik and Tropical Thunder in round 1 out of Springfield, Tennessee. David Morris, and this is a reunion of sorts with driver and truck, and he goes up against Bigfoot and Andy Brass.
You know, I find it interesting. Each of these trucks has their own personality, but there's a chemistry. Now, Andy Brass, Bob Tanner, they think alike. David Morris comes back into the sport with Gary Cook, and it's almost like two heads make one. But what we call this in the sport, Battle of the Blues, brothers. Here we go. One a General Motors product, one a Ford. And the Ford will take the victory. Bigfoot, the Ford fans seem to enjoy that here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Andy Brass in Bigfoot 10, the latest in a long line of racing trucks at a Bob and Marilyn Chandler's shop in St. Louis, Missouri. There's looking David Morris in the equalizer. One of the things that I find interesting is David Morris's truck was the first to come with the engine behind the driver and down. The latest state-of-the-art truck is in the far lane, Bigfoot. Where's the engine located? Behind the driver and down.
And the driver's in the middle of the cockpit. The latest in the lineage of monster trucks out of St. Louis, Missouri. There's a good look at Fred Schaefer in Barefoot. And this is a big Dodge out of the state of Illinois.
Yeah, Fred's teamed up with the Mopar people to put that Dodge name right back on top of the truck selling list, and he is going to represent them well, but not going to be a walkover because Gary Porter out of North Carolina is not afraid of the Dodge at all. Porter, we've seen him before. He represents the Chevrolet camp. He'll be going 512 cubic inches of Chevrolet engine. Barefoot in the far lane, 426 cubic inch Chrysler, both of them running alcohol, supercharged engine, both generating around 1,800 horsepower. The starting line will win this one. The guy that moves quick, kind of like a street fight, the guy that gets the first swing, more than likely wins.
Even off the first set of cars, almost totally even at the finish line. Who won that thing?
You know, this is amazing. People may question the legitimacy of monster truck racing, but you've seen guys flip to get in it, side-by-side racing. It's about as real racing as you're going to see anywhere in America. The B.F. Goodrich people in Penda are bringing it all over the country.
We saw Fred Schaefer win the first round. We should tell you that Overkill was the victim of the Carolina Crusher in round 1. Let's take a look again. The officials are now saying that the Carolina Crusher is victorious in this one. Look how far over Fred Schaefer is, and right there by what, 3 or 4 feet?
Well, Gary, he literally passed him in the air. Well, you notice on the side of John Moore's vehicle, HPX, big corporation based out of northern Kentucky, involved in the nuts and bolts, literally, of motorsports. They're involved with John Moore's team. They're also involved with John Force's drag racing team. We're glad to have them in the sport. Speaking of glad to have somebody in the sport, who would have thought years ago a paintball gun manufacturer would be involved in racing, but they're on the side of Colt Cobra's vehicle, Gary.
That's right, Army. It's the Brass Eagle, along with Hot Wheels, the two sponsors of Colt Cobra. In Snake Bite, the far lane, there's no problem on the near side.
You know, we were talking about corporate America's involvement. You've also got Firestone, Penduliner, HPX. Corporate America has realized these monster trucks will get you some exposure. Look here, John Moore. Big upset, Gary Lee. How about that?
I guess so. It's a big upset. Obviously, something broke on Snake Bite, but John Moore takes the victory. This is the new John Moore no-problem truck. As we take a look at Colt Cobra, and now onto the semis, we'll have Bigfoot against Barefoot, and no problem against the Carolina Crusher. So a good day for John Moore in no problem.
Well, John, there's a lot of terminologies in the sport, but the term, the track comes to you, might be in your favor. You know, you take them any way you can get them this day and time.
Yeah, HPX, no problem. Got another one. We're glad we're going into the next round. I'm really happy that things are going along all right. One round at a time. Let's see what happens next round. I'm not too sure what happened to the other fella, but we're going to take them as we see them, as we come. Oh, boy. I'm so glad to go into the next one. I can't believe it. We're ready. We're ready. Truck's ready.
Love to see that enthusiasm from the participants like John Moore. And once again, let me tell you, these jamborees offer a host of activities for the truck lover as well as the entire family. So to find out more, call or write the Special Events Promotion Company. And here is a look at Barefoot. Fred Schaefer brings up just a ton of experience from the world of drag racing into monster truck competition. And, of course, he is a headliner. He carries the banner for Mopar.
Well, an interesting thing is he was involved in drag racing, right, but he came to the sport of monster trucks with Chevrolet. He looked at Dodge and said, look, I've got to make some more horsepower to stay ahead of these sports and other Chevrolets. That's where that marriage came to view. We told you about Andy Brass and Bob Chandler. The yellow and orange stripe tells you this is the racing truck. Engine located behind the driver in low. And who's that? None other than the #1 monster truck driver, Jim Kramer, who is now serving as Andy Brass's mentor and crew chief. You think the corporations are not involved in this sport? I guarantee you, everybody from Ford's watching the truck on the right. Everybody from Dodge is watching that truck on the left, Gary Lee.
All right, a name brand shootout here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Look at the horsepower as Andy Brass nails the hammer, and he takes the margin in the big blue Ford. So the Ford of Andy Brass, Bigfoot, knocks out the Dodge Barefoot of Fred Schaefer. And Brass will go on to challenge for the championship here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds in Indianapolis.
Boy, they're like two old war horses. They just keep going at each other. Schaefer's already thinking right now about the next time he goes up against that blue truck.
As we take a look one more time, the near lane, the blue Ford of Brass, the far lane, the red Dodge of Fred Schaefer.
What's the attitude of Schaefer? See, he's wheels up in no man's land. He was actually on 2 wheels. Meanwhile, Andy Brass, no, he's going for frequent flyer miles. He's flying to the finish.
Well, now we take a look at John Moore's No Problem, the latest No Problem truck. This is a longer wheelbase that we've seen in the past.
A lot of off-road technology on this No Problem.
And there is Gary Porter in the Carolina Crusher.
Gary Porter comes back with a tried-and-true Chevrolet, a privateer in the sport. Out of North Carolina, more in a far lane.
And Gary Porter likes the longer, faster outdoor tracks. Works very well outdoors when he has more of a shutdown area. He's on the throttle, and it's all Gary Porter. As the No Problem Ford noses over, and Gary Porter takes the victory, so it will be Porter and the Bigfoot of Andy Brass in the finals here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Look at the superstructure inside the cockpit there with John Moore. As Gary Porter takes the victory, and he will advance to the championship round.
Well, these guys, they've been here before. It's about an even toss. I think the big equalizer today is the track. Because horsepower doesn't mean a whole lot. You got to get the bite. But the track itself, you notice how Porter rolled over the first set of cars? Now he picks up on the throttle. But he had to clear the first set of cars, get in no man's land, and then go for the throat, if you will.
Well, there's a look at a Bigfoot truck I think I could probably handle. They'll just turn me loose in it. As we are ready for the finals from Indianapolis, stay with us. Welcome back to the Indiana State Fairgrounds, where Ford Trucks present the Penda 4-Wheel and Off-Road Jamboree Fall Nationals, part of the BF Goodrich Performance Series. Well, it's final time. We have the last 2 combatants set to go, so let's go trackside and get Army's thoughts.
Gary, when the show opened, we told you the starting line just might be the key to this event. At that time, it was smooth. We predicted that they would literally be digging ruts, if you will. Well, we're standing right in what we're going to call the trenches, and the war will be won today in the battle of these trenches. The war will be between the Chevrolet and the Ford of the Carolina Crusher and Bigfoot. Andy Brass, Gary Porter. Final time, it'll be won and lost in the trenches. Back to you, Gary.
And there is a look at Jim Kramer, the vice president of Bigfoot Incorporated, the former Bigfoot driver and a guy that did a lot of training of Andy Brass, as you mentioned earlier, as we take a look at Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher, GM against Ford. And there's the big blue Ford. Bigfoot 10.
And they're just about, the word we get is there is such thing as a Bigfoot 11 on the drawing board. I think the sport's not going forward. The technology each week keeps coming out. Porter driving the same truck he's had for a long time. The privateer. But you're not going to scare him one bit. Andy Brass, class driver and a class rig. It's a classic setup, Chevrolet and Ford.
It's a team effort, too. Remember, Bigfoot with Andy Brass got upside down in qualifying. They had some repairs to make. They made the repairs, and here he is in the championship round against Gary Porter. In the background, the Pepsi Coliseum. So many fine sporting events indoors here at the State Fairgrounds over the years. And it's going to be Andy Brass Andy Brass by a fender, and still the enthusiasm is right there. How many years has that man, Jim Cramer, been around motorsports? But he's still very enthusiastic every time Bigfoot wins.
The victory is just as sweet now as the first time they ever got in this truck.
It's not often that Jim Cramer is here to watch the Bigfoot 10 compete, because he sometimes is in other parts of the world displaying other Bigfoot models.
Literally, plus he runs the research and development program, so he's a busy little camper. We're glad to have him here today. And, you know, he's just as happy about the win as Andy is. We got a good race here. Both trucks lead good. No man's land is where the Ford settles down. Brass sings it.
And right there, you can see by a fender, Andy Brass is victorious. He is trackside with Army.
Andy, I tell you what, when you guys go after each other, it's like two old war horses. Neither one of you are going to blink out there, are you?
That's right. So, Gary, it's always been tough competition, but the blue Ford there just showed it come through today. You know, the track's been a little rough. It was sloppy out there, but we've been working on these Firestone tires. It proved real well for us. We got some real good traction, pulled hard down through the track. The truck did real well for us today.
Well, so on a rainy day, Bigfoot was able to overcome a lot of adversity to take the win. There's a look at Jim Cramer there on the left with the headsets on. Of course, they had to come back from a rollover in qualifying to win it all, but they do. So for Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports.